Hey, Eric, thanks for having me in your kitchen today. I'm looking forward to what we're making. By the way, what are we making?
You've heard of gingerbread houses. This is a gingerbread haunted house, and I got this great recipe I found online.
Okay, so I see here we need 1 gram of sugar and 5 liters of milk and 2 ounces of cinnamon.
I got 6 cups. Is that the same? Hold on a second.
Wait, you don't have a liter measuring thing? Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Let's see. The hash mark here says...
Do you have something with grams? Because I think there's a footnote about grams. Maybe we can convert it to grams. Should we do that?
It's probably the same thing. We'll just toss it in there. We'll eyeball it. How much salt does it say?
It says a pinch. Now, when I say a pinch, I have small hands, so I do like 4 pinches. And I think that's equal to 1 normal size pinch.
No, that's too much. That's too much. We need eggs. How many eggs do we need?
It says 4 large eggs, but you only have medium eggs here. I don't know what we do.
This is so confusing.
There needs to be recipe standards, Eric. That's the problem. We're dealing with grams, liters, cups, ounces.
Yeah, oh no. Is this supposed to bubble over like that?
Now let's just roll the show.
Welcome to the Volumetric Roundtable, where we talk about the latest happenings in the world of volumetric. My name is Eric Azares, Head of Product Development at Dengenuity Labs. And we're here today with Denny Breitenfeld, founder of Dengenuity Labs. Hi, Denny.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here. Eric, today we're going to talk about what is a new media format. How does a nonprofit trade association like the Volumetric Format Association, which is a nonprofit 501c6, actually develop interoperability, promote the format, and what does it mean to actually contribute and be part of the VFA? And how do we see the next several years pan out now that the industry is starting to get some momentum and grow? So that's what we're going to really talk about today, Eric.
Great. So maybe we could start from the top and maybe define what some of these terms are. So when I think of a standard or format, what a lot of people think of, they think of like an MP4, right? Some type of file extension. Is that what we're talking about when we say format and standard?
That's a very common starting point when people think about formats. However, the reality is that those are codecs. So your MP3, your MP4, that's a codec. And the difference between a codec and say a simple standard that supports that codec and a format is a collection of standards. So you may have an audio standard for 5.1 surround sound or an immersive object-based audio standard as well. And the format could support both of those. You may have a format that can support different ways to compress the video. So those ways are codecs and standards, and the format encompasses those. But that's sort of the starting point of getting your head around what a format is. A format is actually bigger than the technology itself. A really excellent example of a format that is 28 years old is the DVD format. And you can still go into a big box retail store and buy a DVD, and you can still buy DVD players. That's the testament to a format versus a codec. Codecs will change a lot, and they will grow over time based on, we started with 480 resolution, interlaced 480 resolution. Then the HD resolutions came along with 720 and then 1080, and then you had progressive versus interlaced. Those are sort of standards, but the format will continue to evolve. Best formats will adapt. So that is the overall idea of what a format is. Collection of standards, but it's also bigger than the tech. And the way the Volumetric Format Association has its North Star about a media format is that it really is 4 major pillars. And we're going to go into some of these pillars, but at the high level, these pillars it is a media format. And with media, the key thing there is content, right? Content is king. And if we use the DVD as our reference point, a diversity of content is king. It has to be everything from your favorite movie and documentary and your favorite game on TV, all the way to a museum that wants to make some content about what they're doing, or a medical industry that's going to use the format to share information with other doctors, with their patients, and everything in between. So that's what we mean by diversity. We don't mean just diversity, say, in the media entertainment industry where you have Hollywood and indie. Yes, we want that, but we need to extend that idea to every use case where this new media, this volumetric media, will be used. And that is in multiple different industries and sectors inside those industries. So that's what we mean by content is king with diversity, Eric.
So if I wanted to launch my own dance aerobics DVDs, I'd be set.
Yeah, and the industry supports you. And even if those DVDs weren't your main business model, it was there to help your clients learn dancing at home. That's what we mean by a format. A format isn't just supporting the fact that this content is the main revenue driver. It's there to support whatever business models and the industries are doing. It is a media format.
Format is more than just like a file or a file container. Like I'm picturing like a playbook or a recipe book or rules and guidelines.
So yeah, Eric, that's an excellent analogy, a recipe. But let's carry that through the whole idea of the format. We've been talking about the end user, the content they're enjoying and watching, but there's the ecosystem, the infrastructure, if you will, that supports that. So maybe we need a new manufacturing line. We'll use DVDs as an example. They needed to develop the idea of a manufacturing line to make the physical DVDs. There was a physical DVD player that didn't exist until the format created it. With volumetric, the analogy there is there will be new camera standards that will send the camera data down to a device that could process not just one, but could process anywhere from one to hundreds of cameras to sort of recreate the 3D sports game, if you will. And so you're going to have cameras, you're going to have processing, you need to compress it. So you have a whole new set of standards like codecs that you mentioned to compress that data. And then, as we just started the show with, is you're going to have this format have standards for watching that content on, say, the Apple Vision Pro or your Xbox game console or your tablet, your iPad, or anything else that might be coming down in the future, like holographic displays. The format will be able to support all the different ways we want to consume this content. So that's what we mean by recipes. And sometimes we'll have a recipe book just for the cameras, just for the devices, maybe just for the processing. So the volumetric format is looking at all the use cases for content and then developing those recipe books. New companies or existing companies could read and go out and build a product or several products that support this format.
You mentioned there were 4 key pillars to a media format. Can you go into that?
Yeah. So with the new format and just with everybody being very busy in their lives and sometimes we're not focused on sort of what the latest and greatest is, adoption of a format really has to say to the consumer and the companies that are actually going to try to adopt the format, hey, this is better than anything else out there because we are busy, because it is risky. And so the next pillar is a way better experience. And with volumetric video, that is delivered in spades. So when we have XR headsets and we have a lot more of them and we're all walking around with them, enjoying content like the real world is much better than watching it on a 2D screen. So that's like way in the future, as that's going to be a much better experience. But even sort of in the near future is you can basically put a camera anywhere you want. So take that basketball game. Now you can place a camera where you couldn't physically go. And if you haven't listened to our podcast on how sports and volumetric are going to be a game changer, definitely go check it out. It goes into that. But that's what we mean by it's going to deliver a better experience for the near term, even to the long term. And we start out with having companies realize that that's a possibility, knowing that if they go and they adopt this format, there's an industry behind them. And then when the format sort of gets ready for the consumer, and maybe the consumer is sports first, then it's sort of big movies and special effects, maybe then it's medical, maybe it's training. It doesn't have to roll out to everybody at once. It depends on the content and the use case. It can roll out over time. That's when you start to see the format actually have its own life and its own momentum. By that, I mean, the companies that are creating the content and using this format will want to go out and promote the format because they know there's an audience that's interested in those experiences, because it is a better experience by use case, by use case, by use case, compared to the 2D version of that.
So that was the second pillar?
That's the second pillar. There was actually several years before the consumers ever got their first DVD. And later we'll have a trivia question on it. But related to delivering a better experience, the industry took their time developing the DVD so it was better than the VHS. And then when it was ready, they did release it. And they released it slowly. 4 titles were released in December 1996. That's it. And look at where DVDs come today. So that's what we mean by delivering a better experience and how it's going to roll out. It's probably going to be a little faster than that because technology moves faster. People are more used to adopting new technologies, but it is going to be that kind of rollout where the content will be able to drive the adoption. It really leads to our sort of third pillar, and that is a guaranteed interoperability. So no matter whether you rented a DVD at Blockbuster, at your local DVD rental house, or you bought it at Walmart, and maybe you have a Sony player or you have a Philips player, you knew that it would just work. You knew that if you plugged that DVD player into a TV, the signal would be the same. If you bought a Disney title and you also had a Warner Brothers title, you knew the quality would be there. It wouldn't change from one to the other. You knew that there was going to be some kind of menu system. You knew that it supported multiple audio languages. The interoperability was a guarantee no matter region of the world, device manufacturer, TV, content studio. And that is really, really important because it lets the consumer and the audience know, hey, if I buy this or I spend my hard-earned money on it, I know what to get, no matter what I'm getting for that money, no matter all those variables, I can guarantee that it's going to always be and I'm never going to be surprised. I know a lot of us love surprises, but we don't want surprises when we go out and watch content and go, wait a second. That's what we need when we talk about a format is going to guarantee interoperability.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing I want to do if I'm ready to chill out and watch a film. I don't want to have to wrestle with the devices and troubleshoot and left guessing or wondering if this darn thing is actually going to work, right? I have confidence in the product that I'm using, right? And I know that whether I'm going to use my remote control or my game controller.
And even just educating the audience of this new format. A format trade association could really enhance the adoption. So like I said, on a DVD, you can switch audio tracks, French, Spanish, English. That was rather quick to educate the audience. It was coming from the trade association. It was coming from the studios. The reverse of that took longer to educate the consumer on was, hey, my streaming could actually change resolutions. So you're probably familiar with that little icon while you're watching YouTube or Netflix or whatever it may be, where you can sort of change your resolution. That didn't exist until streaming came about. And there were early complaints about why the quality was so bad because the resolution wasn't automatically increases and people didn't know that there was a resolution button. And because there was no trade association, there's no industry going out and saying, hey, look, this is now part of a standard. standard. In fact, actually, there are streaming services where you can't even change the resolution, right? Versus others that you can. That's what the VFA is trying to also avoid, is these one-offs where the consumer now sort of has to be educated on XYZ's approach versus ABC's approach versus another company's approach. There should be ways for those companies to differentiate, but not on the basics of being able to provide a consistent experience and guaranteed interoperability. So the VFA is very conscious of being able to drive adoption using interoperability and best practices so that everybody is sort of adopting as quickly as possible instead of maybe these pockets. So for the last 16 years, when the first streaming started, it's gone through a lot of different things, but there's no industry standard behind streaming. And over time, consumers sort of gravitated to sort of what features and functionality work best, but it's still not universal. And we want to accelerate the adoption faster. And guaranteed interoperability is one of the best ways we can do that.
Yeah. So with guaranteed interoperability, it's the consumers that win.
That then leads to the fourth pillar, is the best media formats are global. So no matter where you are in the world, if there's a DVD logo on the package you're picking up, you know that it's going to work. And that is very, very important when the ecosystem is just getting started. So with that notion of being global and democratic, because we're a nonprofit trade association, we can bring in and we invite companies who are working on content that maybe isn't media and entertainment and maybe isn't just part of North America, but that content has a lot of value and the format should support that content in those use cases. And what that allows for is, once the format is out there and once content's being created in that format, it allows for these businesses and the consumer to really thrive. So maybe maybe there's a museum in part of the world that is in North America or South America, and they're looking to sort of educate their clients and the attendees of the museum on this rare artifact. And they want to do it in a very immersive way because it's such an amazing artifact to sort of experience, especially if you can't be at the museum. Being able to capture that volumetrically, process it, stream it, and then deliver it to that audience in a way that is best for them, that is guaranteed, everything we talked about, will allow that local sort of market to say, wait a second, we can monetize it this way. We can have an upsell that way. Like if you experience, maybe it's this beautiful 1400, ship that crossed the ocean, and you can experience it immersively. Maybe now you could buy the book on it. You could maybe buy a replica of it. There's ways for these businesses to use the format to then extend their business. And on the other side is, maybe you're a really good storyteller about this old ocean liner ship, and you want to add layers to that ship where you can see what it looked like in its glory, what it looks like now, and you can really expand that immersive experience. The format will allow for new tools to be created by the next Adobe or the existing Adobe to then allow creators to really expand that experience. And that creates new jobs, that creates new opportunities for somebody who wants to get into it because the format allows it. So global and democratic is sort of the tide that lifts all boats. And that's the final pillar of what makes a new media format. I have a trivia question for you in today's trivia.
Let me put on my thinking cap. Hold on a second. Ready.
Okay, the DVDs that we experience today, and while at the time of the recording, we're only a few days left until Netflix ends their DVD distribution business. That DVD that we understand today isn't the original DVD format that really got started. Who are the companies that went and started to create a video-based format? And who actually ended up being the company and companies behind the DVD that we know today?
The DVDs that we use today, they're different from the original DVDs that were created how many years ago?
In 1993, there was an organization that was looking at creating a new physical, optical, video-based format. And in 1995, that group decided not to continue with their work. Another group was handed the baton, if you will, and that group is the format we know as DVD. So who was the original group and why was this a big deal?
Were they a big tech company? Were they known for technology?
They were known for technology.
Does the company still exist today?
They do exist today.
Do I have an appliance that was built by that company in my house right now?
You do.
Oh, okay. So something that I have. This manufacturer, do they make appliances that can be found in the kitchen?
I think in North America, they're not known for their kitchen appliances, but I believe they have been known for their kitchen appliances in Europe.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a clue. Does this country experience a phenomenon called the midnight sun? Can you give me the precise latitude and longitude of this company?
You're getting warmer.
Is it Sony Ericsson?
You're close. It's Sony and Philips. Sony and Philips, yes.
So do I get partial credit?
You get partial credits. They're the ones that collectively created the compact disc. So it would make sense that they would want to expand and do a video version of it. In fact, I think Philips is known for something called the CDI, when multimedia discs were the rage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next podcast. And so they were working on the video version. Long story short is one of the big studios in Hollywood encouraged the industry to go with one format before the format was ever released. And Sony and Philips agreed that they would let the other format be the format for Hollywood. And that format was led by Toshiba. And so Toshiba is the main founding member of the DVD because of that, and Toshiba and Mitsubishi is part of it. Because of that, Warner Brothers got behind it, and Warner Brothers in 1996, December 20th, 1996, released 4 titles. And what that saved the consumer was this notion of, okay, wait, I like compact discs, but I like these movies that are being released by Warner Brothers. Do I buy a Toshiba DVD player now if I have a Sony CD player? And there was no public format war. And that is why 28 years later, the optical discs are still going strong. Disney just turned 100 years. And to celebrate, they're releasing 100 titles on Blu-ray as a beautiful box package, and there's additional collectibles in it. It's a $1,500 kit, and there will be an audience for it because it is a format, and they know that they can find players and TVs and all that to support it. That's what a format can do. It can really usher in a whole new industry. And DVDs were one of the best selling formats of all time. And all because there was no public format war. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of arguments, but that's to be expected. But to you and me, we just know one DVD.
I don't even think twice about it, to be honest. I just know that it just works. But knowing that there are minds and there are organizations behind making sure everything plays nicely, that's great. There's people working hard behind the scenes, making sure that we all can enjoy our DVDs of Cinderella and whatever else is in that 100. Would that include the Rescuers and the Rescuers Down Under?
It would.
Okay,
Yeah.
sold.
So,
Say no more.
say no more. There's a whole trivia question on the rescuers someday. You did mention that there's work that was being done for those formats. And that's an excellent point to make because we get asked a lot about what is the work that the VFA members are doing? How can my company help contribute? If we do, what is the work that we would be doing? And, how do we get started? And the best way to do it is let's break it down into 3 key areas that the members are focused on when it comes to doing work. And the first is we need to make sure we're all speaking the same language. And I don't mean, like English and French, but the same definition, the same word has the same definition no matter what we're doing. So spatial computing is one of those words that probably has a different meaning to a lot of different people. So the first thing we do is we look at, okay, what is our dictionary? And the VFA has internally published 3 different dictionaries, and we're constantly adding to it. There's this thing called neuroradiance fields. And if you haven't listened to the 2 podcasts we have on that, definitely go recommend listening to those. But that's a sort of a new term that's being added to our dictionaries. And it could mean one thing if you're rendering a neuroradiance field, and a completely different thing if you're trying to process a neuroradiance field. So that's why we have 3 different dictionaries. Is maybe in this context, the word means A, and in a different context, it means B. So we start there. So we're all speaking the same language. The next thing that we can sort of easily get behind is what are some of the best practices? So if you're doing a volumetric capture, there's probably a few good ways to sort of position your cameras. And if you don't position them in these ways, you may not get the best result. So that's what we mean by developing a best practice. And so our members focus on that. Where have they done work in volumetric that they can sort of articulate? And then we scribe out a best practices document, a white paper. So right now, the VFA has 4 different white papers, and 3 of them are part of our portfolio, our capture acquisition portfolio. So that really breaks down different ways to do volumetric capture as a best practice. All our members get access to these white papers depending on when they get released and how they get released, but the members can access the white papers. The next area that we work on is some specifications. Where can we all agree as an industry that this is now, as we mentioned way at the beginning, this is a recipe and here's the components of the recipe. So that's what we mean by a specification. And sometimes in the specification, there are standards. So the members in what we call a working group around decode and render, and that working group really focuses on how do you decode 3D content and render it. What is the codecs that support that? What is the communication between the device and the server to get that content to the device? That working group with the directors has just approved version 1.1 of the decode and render specification. And inside it is 2 standards, and we're adding more. So that's what we mean by a specification, which holds a collection of standards. And in this case, the decode and render specification will actually be able to support anywhere from compressing one person. Maybe you capture that one person using a phone and you did NERF, or you capture that one person using time of flight cameras like Kinect or RealSense cameras that use structured light, or maybe you're capturing that one person using 105 cameras doing structured light, or you're doing something bigger like a basketball game and you have 100 cameras. Our compression format supports all those use cases no matter how it was captured, and we have 2 standards inside it. So that's what we're doing. That's what that work group's focused on. And right now they're on track to deliver 2.0 in the upcoming months, which is a very exciting new way to stream volumetric content. The next area is, like this podcast, and as the standards and definitions get published, the VFA is going out and evangelizing what is being done to build out this ecosystem. And we focus on use cases that our members are interested in. And those use cases are live entertainment such as sports and concerts, virtual production such as putting volumetrically captured backgrounds on the LED wall so that we can speed up virtual production. And if you haven't checked out our virtual production podcast, definitely go check out that. So the VFA is focused on those two use cases. That's what our members are driving. But as we get more and more members in, the evangelization will then grow because that's what our members want to evangelize. And then as these specifications sort of solidify, the VFA will be out there promoting the adoption of these specifications. So when there's a streaming format that's adopted that can be run on for work on multiple devices for all the different use cases, the VFA will go out and promote it. It will promote that content. So that's what we mean by the evangelization of this format that we're talking about. So that's what we do. And we do it every 2 weeks where companies that are interested in either the capture side all the way to the playback, they have their team members participate in discussions and drive the best practices, specifications. And we meet roughly about an hour for these working groups, a little bit of work through between working group meetings, but it's really not much of a commitment. It's really about bringing forward the idea that we want to develop definitions, best practice, and standards, and companies can contribute in those three ways directly and indirectly. If your company is not ready to contribute that way, you may be on the other end where, hey, if this best standard gets published, you'll be able to use it because it's part of what you're trying to do with volumetric content or with your clients, and knowing how to do this more efficiently and better could help you. So even in these working groups, if you're not contributing that way, you're at least providing feedback, and then that benefits your company because now it becomes sort of a best practice.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, I was just thinking about if I wanted to bake a cake tonight, I wouldn't have to just try to invent a way to bake the cake and figure it out. I could follow along with the recipe, and there's different recipes I can use. So I have a starting point. And I have a starting point that I could use, and I know that it's going to taste delicious.
Yeah, exactly. And then using that analogy is maybe you're a restaurant. There's so many ways that you as a restauranteur could sort of make it your own, whether you're providing an elegant dining experience or you're providing a rustic, outdoor countryside experience for whatever you're cooking. There's lots of ways to tailor that recipe and make it sort of your own. That's what the VFA is trying to do when it comes to volumetric capture, processing, delivery, and then the experiences. And when you go into a restaurant and you order something, you want it to be sort of standard. You want to know that it's going to be warm and you're not going to have any issues with it. We're doing the same thing. So that's a great analogy.
And sometimes when people hear the word format, they feel like they're locked in a box and that there's no wiggle room. But in actuality, just like with a recipe, there is room for creativity and new discovery. You started with a base, but then you modified it and made it your own. So you could share your findings with other people, the other chefs, right? Earlier, we said that these formats, they help the customer, but it also helps the people in the industry themselves. Win-win for everybody.
Many times we could ask, well, what are the membership levels and how would I participate? And so we really sort of start out with like basic level, which is really the level about building out that community. It's about the exact same thing you just mentioned. What are you trying to do when you're creating your content? How have you used the technology? How do you want to use the technology? Learning what others are doing. That's what we mean by community. And so the VFA does go to events such as AWE in Europe. We did SIGGRAPH, and we'll do more where we're talking to community members, and we'll be showcasing what community members are working on, how they're using the technology. And if you haven't listened to podcasts before, it's free. So if you're in the industry and you're not sure where to start, we always say start with a community member. We have a community portal where you can see industry reports, see videos that we've done at events, and we're going to be participating in more. So it's a great way to get started. And then if you're a company company that is developing technology around virtual production, around sports and concerts, even telecommunications. Maybe you're developing a two-way immersive experience and you're really building out the tech. Maybe you're getting into the idea that you're going to build a universal volumetric capture stage, and that stage could create all kinds of different content. And you're working on technologies there. Maybe you're really leaning into capturing with just a phone, and then you use machine learning and you recreate the person, and then you want to compress that volumetric person and get it out to devices. Those companies are building the tech, really pioneers in this area. We highly recommend the advisor member. Now's the ideal time to sort of be an advisor member of the VFA, because we are looking for use cases and technologies that do work to move the ecosystem forward. And your company could be at the ground floor, if you will, or back to the ship example, you could be one of the boats that rises all the waters. So the advisor member is a great way to get into the association, contribute. But we do have a license model where all the advisor members and enterprise members, they own their IP. So it's really great that this is a trade association that doesn't want to own IP. What it wants to do is it wants to elevate a format and let the companies who have invested their hard work and time and brain power in inventing the technology and moving it forward still be able to capitalize on that hard work. So the advisor member is a good way to really bring your technology to a sort of other thought leaders and elevate your company to be a thought leader in volumetric, whether it's cameras all the way to devices. And then Eric, for companies that are looking at volumetric and want to sort of steer its ship, we highly recommend the enterprise member. The advantage of there, like I said, you get to drive the direction, you're on the board, you really vote on what specifications are going to be published, how they're going to be published, and really take the VFA and help guide it so that it becomes a format that is going to be here 28 plus years. And so we're looking for companies that believe in this for the long term. And so that's what our enterprise membership tier is about, is finding thought leaders that are going to really steer the ship. So those are 3 membership tiers. As always, like we say in every podcast, if you want to learn more, go to volumetricformat.org/join. And you can find out more information there, and also contact the staff of the VFA if you have any questions.
So Denny, I've got a trivia question for you. What was the first DVD shipped by Netflix when the company launched in the late 90s? So what was the title of the very first DVD shipped by Netflix?
I don't know if I know it, but I'm going to go with the first DVD I got from Netflix. And that was in 1999. And the title was Notting Hill.
Ooh, that's not what we're looking for. Here's a hint earlier in the podcast, right? So it was a spooky haunted gingerbread house.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay. You are in the right realm for sure. Jack Skellington and everything, right? Okay. Yeah. Let's say that it wouldn't surprise me if the character from this movie shared the same wardrobe as some of the characters in Nightmare Before Christmas. Like they have a similar style.
Was it Edward Scissorhands?
Ooh.
If I say this 3 times, would I be on the right track?
Now, is this the type of word you would say in front of a mirror? It's not Candyman.
I was thinking Beetlejuice.
That is correct.
Yeah. Wow, that was the first one. And it was a huge hit. I saw this in the theaters, actually.
Really? Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder, they were all there? Yeah. They were all there in the theater with you?
We're all there in the theater.
Oh, man. Good times.
Great first release by Netflix. Good pick, Netflix.
This episode is produced by Dejuity Labs and brought to you by the Volumetric Format Association. If you're interested in joining the VFA, you can go to volumetricformat.org/join. Here, you can learn about all the membership tiers. This global community works together to drive this technology forward through best practices, standards, and collaboration. We also have a community membership tier, and it's free to join. So once again, check out volumetricformat.org/join for more info. My name is Eric Azaris. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.